Okay, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything that would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda, we have a special activity. We do have a continued public hearing, so at this time I would like to entertain a motion to recess the regular meeting and open the public hearing.
So moved. Second. Mr. Peterswall? Yay. Mr. Gabbard? Yay. Mr. Wade?
Yay. Okay. Jeffrey?
I have nothing to add at this point. I want to turn it over to the applicant. He does have an updated presentation, and I believe some members of the audience probably want to have discussion, but I can answer questions as we go, but nothing for me to.
Okay. David, please.
Yes, good morning. David Oates, 3601 Rigby Road. And so thank you for hearing me again. Sorry about the tabling, and thank you, Mr. Trich, for coming back to a meeting again. David and I have talked, and so I think we've got an agreement here from both of us at this point. But I have did a few things since our last meeting. One, it came up whether we can meet the overall green space requirement. So I supplied Jeff with an overall green space map that shows the requirements will be met without these small parcels being deeded over to the adjacent property owners. In addition to that, I had my attorney, Dave Reed at TAF, draw up some legal documents on how we would handle releasing these parcels from the HOA. They were provided just a few days ago to the township, so, but we feel comfortable from an HOA standpoint that with those documents put into place that these parcels then could be released from the HOA. However, in those documents it does indicate that these parcels will need to remain as green space, that they cannot be built on, anything can't be built on them. So then just an update between David and myself, and he can speak to this as well. So there were some things that were originally talked about, the relocation of the walking path, which is really waiting approval in order that we can accomplish that according to that drawing back there. The buffer mounding between the properties, we've already started that work, so there's a mound that's been created between Mr. Trich's property and ours. And then, in addition to that, we've talked about when we did the road widening out in front of his property. He had enclosed the ditch originally, and then the plans called for us to create the ditch. So right now there's a ditch there, but with this approval, we would go back and we actually have a pipe sitting there to enclose the ditch on his property, and when I talked to Mr. Trich, he wanted to have a time frame in which that work would get done, and I indicated to him that we do it within 30 days of getting the county engineer, which I don't believe he'll have any problem with it because it's going to have a pipe in there that will carry it. There's not very much water that flows in front of his property. So I do that work within 30 days of getting the county to okay it. And then any excess dirt would be placed at Mr. Trich's direction. There's some excess dirt that could be placed on some low spots in his property. And then with that, with the successful platting of the lots that we're showing there, the two orange lots, we also then deed that right-of-way west of his property over to him at that sort of simultaneously. So that is sort of the update on the agreement with Mr. Trich at this point. Any questions?
Guys have any questions? Jeff, does that, it seems to me that, as I recall from our last meeting, seems to get out all the points.
Yeah, the discussion from our standpoint was we could proceed if it was remaining within the PUD.
Right.
This still keeps in the PUD. There's discussion, would it have the HOA requirements or not, so I believe that has been addressed.
Okay, Mr. Trent, would you like to, are you good, have any comments?
First time I've been asked to come forward instead of just volunteering. David Tritch from 1974 East Line of 5 Points Road. Yes, David and I have had discussions about all the details that he mentioned, and he is correct that one of the things that was my greatest concern was I wanted to find some timeline as to completion of the project. I didn't want something that was open-ended. We had no idea when it would occur. It would just be whenever. So as long as we have a timeline in place, I was okay with that. The other point was the legal document that would release us from any attachment to or requirements to the HOA. I saw the document. I don't read legalese very well, so I don't know how well that document defines exactly what our requirements were. It appears that everything to me would release me from any responsibilities of any fees or any assessments in any way. If that seems to meet, and I may defer to.
Yeah.
I'm not opining on
You
the
have-
agreement. I don't represent the HOA. I've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't represent the HOA. I don't represent Mr. Oaks. I don't represent Mr. Trish. I'm not commenting on the legal validity of what this says or doesn't say. That's not who I represent. I represent the township.
Okay. Well, in your opinion, if as the township trustee, do you think it satisfies what we talked about at the last meeting?
What I know is what Mr. Palmer just said, which is that the issue here before the trustees was that it satisfied or pulled 23E. Is that correct? 23E out of the agreement. Well, let me look at it again. I forgot to bring the 23A. So long as you still meet the green space requirements, and that's all the township is. That's all I'm opining about, and that, according to Mr. Palmer, is the case, and that's fine. What Mr. Trish and Mr. Oaks have going on between each other,
Right.
I don't know about, and I don't opine about.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm certainly satisfied with it, with what you two gentlemen have said, and.
As well, as long as you're comfortable with it. I mean, I haven't seen it, but that's, again, between the two of you, so.
Worked it out. We worked it out, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah, again, so just so long as there's a defined timeline that we have a completion date, then I'm good with it.
And you should be able to get the engineer up here reasonably soon.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
It'd be pretty good.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Okay, any further comments? Jeff, anything else you want to say?
No, it's not, sir. I can answer questions without having to turn.
No, I'm good. Okay, this is a motion to end the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Gabbard? Yay. Mr. Muerspaw? Yay. Mr. Wade?
Okay. And with that, we have resolution 5176, resolution to approve or deny and modify the requested removal condition of 23A and from resolution 3632, modification to the prior stage 2 approval for Village of Whiting Creek. I guess that fits it all, right? So
Yeah,
with the changes that we have.
Yeah, part of the discussion that we initially had was the request was for just these two lots. We didn't have the designation of the new designation. And how would we deal with that? There was discussion if it would go out of the PUD or in the PUD. What has been proposed today with the update is that a non-buildable lot designation be established for the lots that are in question for transfer from HOA open space to privately held open space. So I'm not sure if we need to have that fleshed out at all within this document, or, and then we come back for our second reading and have it the way in which it needs to be.
Yeah, couldn't we do it on a second reading?
So if I have that as the direction, I can make that happen.
So I think what exactly Mr. Palmer is exactly right. So I think what would make everybody happy, since Mr. Oaks prepared this and submitted it, is that we would just attach this exhibit here to define the open space, or define the open space, and that way everybody would know and be able to refer to a specific document as to what the open space is. That makes sense, Mr. Oaks?
Yeah. The only other thing I was going to say is that the plat's already been recorded, and it shows those parcels as non-buildable. It shows them as to remain as open space. There's actually a note on the plat itself.
Yeah, but the note on the plat says if you had approval from this body, Prior to that, they're actually specified as reserve lots, so they're currently HOA open space as recorded. So it's going to be a reconfiguration you'll have to do when you come through for the stage 3.
Yeah.
But I think that's cheaper. That's the direction of the board.
But for the second reading, we'll just amend it, add a paragraph and say, you know, the new open space is defined in this exhibit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay. That sounds like that. Mr. Oaks understands that, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, thank you. With that, we could, I will entertain a motion to approve this for this, with the changes to be made in stage 2, as mentioned. For a motion to do so.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Muersfall? Yay. Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to fiscal business. Mike, what do you have for us today?
Nothing today, I think that is not covered in the consent agenda, so I'm good, thank you.
Anything from public comment? Big business, we've planning, so we'll let Jim second here. Planning.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were waiting on me.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, we have 2 repeat offenders, which is the Ryan Road and Gertrude Avenue. They've run again to need that. And there's a new one, which is Township Line Road. This is a 5-acre tract, but we're requesting it in its entirety to be mowed, because they have mowed part of it. They're just not mowed their northern boundary. So I attempted to get a hold of them last, I think Wednesday, Thursday. They've not returned my call. Left a business card. Ultimately, I'm trying to figure out if they're still doing grading on the site, or if that's how they intend to utilize it. But their southern boundary touches a residential property, which is thus to the north, but their relative lives to the south. They've maintained that. They've not maintained to the north, where they have an adjoining property. So
I see.
I would request that it be mowed in its entirety, so that we can get everyone to be equal in the area.
Okay. Do I have any questions?
I do have a question. Is there, at any point, do we go past this continual mess in Ryan Road? I mean, we continue to fight this. This is...
Have we exhausted all the legal stuff and now just doing it again?
Well, I mean, at this point, the structure, when we had it before as a nuisance, we had the opportunity for them to either close in the top of it, so meet the minimums, or demolish it. When we were going through that process, our structural engineer and environmental engineer said, you know, it's not of quality that they would say to maintain, so they were advocating it for it to be demolished. The mortgage company on the 12th hour, you know, came in and put a roof on it, which made the minimum. It secured the building again. Since it's not being occupied, the health department is not concerned with anything going on inside, unfortunately. The building department is comfortable with it since it is quote-unquote secured. So I get calls on a regular basis from several individuals on the Ryan Road who would be willing to purchase, and I've directed them towards the different mortgage lien holders that exist. But, you know, basically a year ago, we had a maintenance company that, after they did the roof, came in and started mowing, and that maintenance company has ceased to provide service to that site. So I'm not sure what can be done at this point, since it is functionally a contained structure. And that was where our leverage was before, is it was an unsecured structure. It is an eyesore, for sure, and it would have been great if they would have continued to do an improvement on the site. But mortgage companies are out of Texas that hold mortgages, the 2 mortgages that exist on there, the 2 liens. They feel, I guess, Clear Creek Township still has value with that structure, as opposed to it being an open field, so to speak, a vacant lot. But I don't know what else to do. We've exhausted what I've been able, maybe our attorney,
only
further direction.
Appreciate the question. Yeah, I think the only thing you can do is, at this particular point, is if there's a health department issue wherein vermin or animals start to congregate, you know, that's probably the only thing. If it's structurally sound enough to where the county won't come in, we could make a separate argument, but I don't like to be in that position when the county says one thing and then we're saying another with respect to the structural, and they're they have the jurisdiction, let's just say it that way. And the other point too is that with respect to the nuisance issues, I mean, if there's we have the authority to clean up the debris, but then, you know, you're doing that and putting a lien on the property, which you may or may not ever get back in terms of cleaning that up.
That's my ultimate concern. I mean,
Yeah.
it's costing us some time and money. We're not getting any, I mean, this is just habitual.
Right.
Past habitual, so I went by there this weekend, and this is the one on the right as you face them, yes? Or the one on the left?
This is on the northern side of Bryan.
So there's someone there, there was someone there actually working this weekend.
Oh.
That I saw.
Okay.
So, and I apologize, I thought this was the one on the right, which appears to be in worse repair than the one on the left.
Well, the one on the south, they have taken put a new foundation in, so.
Okay.
Part of which they felt that was worthy of maintaining also, which surprised them.
All right.
So that has not been entirely cleaned up, that was a spring project, that is still.
You may want to take a look at 72.
Yeah, I can do that also, too.
So, I know that, I don't know if you guys have, but I've gotten calls from people that live on that road, I've gotten calls from people that live in the surrounding area, that everyone just continues to be frustrated with it, so.
The other thing that might help is kind of that mass calling to the health department. I know Jeff's already done that, but sometimes hearing from the residents themselves may make a difference, or somebody may take a second look.
And, you know, as, just so that we're clear, annually, we tend to get money back from them, so we do our assessments in September. So that can be put on last year's tax bill for attempting to do stuff. So there is cumulative effect that we have, but yeah, it's minor in comparison to someone who's living there dealing with the rub
Yeah,
of having stuff, as opposed to a bank who's out of state, waiting for it to be sold or upgraded. I guess is the only word to say for that. But yeah, I'll look at the other side also and see if there's anything that can meet our needs.
One of those messes that we used to deal with.
Unfortunately,
Back
yeah.
then, you deal with.
Well, I mean, collectively, I mean, it's unfortunate it's on a corner on a highly traveled arterial that everyone sees.
And across the street, all the homes are very nice.
Correct. And everyone, you know, just within the area has tried to maintain and do, for the most part. And it just continues to be the eyesore.
I heard about it all week, yesterday.
Well, I'm sure.
All the fries were there.
Oh, yeah, I'm quite sure. I'm quite sure Judy was, vocal about it. I mean, I would be, if it was across from mine. I get on my neighbor for putting his trash can in front of my mailbox, so.
Okay, well, all right. Is there a motion to approve 5181?
So moved.
Second. Mr. Gabbard? Yay. Mr. Peterson?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. Okay, under Road and Park, I have a recommendation to increase the annual curb program allotment, or allocated amount from not to exceed 25,000 to not to exceed 4.
Yes, sir. Every year we do 25, and I always have a safety net of 15,000 for uncategorized projects that pop up, and that 25 is not going to touch anything in there, especially with the attachments of the curbs. Those are all in Winding Creek, those catch basins. So if I'm using the 25 to repair all of that, then that even takes even further away from the curb. So I would just like to take that 15 that I may not even use this year for anything else and add it to the curbs to try to get through there. If you recall, back 9 years ago when we first went into Woodland Greens, we went through 2 or 3 years, piece, and then on that 3rd or 4th year we added, almost doubled it to get out of there and finish it because we were in there for so long. I feel it's going to be the same way this time, so.
All right, so a motion to approve this not to exceed amount from 25 to 40,000. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. Anything else, Scott?
No,
Okay. Administration, nothing new, Matt? Maybe business. Fire department? Something going on?
There's a lot going on, but maybe
Oh, yeah. I'm sure. Police department, chief?
I really want to brief the board on something that happened last week. As the board's aware, we pay the Warren County Drug Task Force to participate in that. It's about $14,000 a year, and we don't usually get to talk about the return of that or what happens. Excuse me, but Last week, there was a conclusion of a drug case that had been going on for about a month out on 122. There was a traffic stop done out here. It was an orchestrated event that happened last week between Middletown and Warren County Drug Task Force, the FBI, and us, and so forth. And in that traffic stop, 2 Middletown guys were caught. They had a kilo of fentanyl in the car. And this was a purchase that was going to be made, so by good guys. They did not know that. The task force decided to take that off before they spent 44 grand. They had already spent 33 grand previous to that to work up to that level. So there was almost 5 pounds worth of drugs taken on the street in that 30 days. And fentanyl is what's been killing everybody as far as the heroin issue. That's most of it's fentanyl. So probably enough in that 2.2 pounds last week to kill everybody in the city and the township, but everybody took a dose of it. So great job on their part. That drugs were headed to our community. At least the bad guys thought that. There was probably a half a dozen search warrants served in Middletown as part of that. And this is kind of a second layer of an event they had over there where they traced, excuse me, I'm fighting sore throat this morning, where they traced back some of these Middletown guys actually had connections down into cartels in Mexico and were running the money and drugs back and forth across the border. So pretty involved for a couple knuckleheads in Middletown. This is the second layer of them that's coming through. One of the things we found in this is, unfortunately, our UDF is being used as a stop point for transfers at times. So we'll police that as heavily as we can, but difficult to catch down there when they're doing a quick transfer. So this was pushed away from there. It was taken down off of 122 just below 123 there. And the traffic stop, trying to get them out in no man's land there with not many people around to make the arrest. Thank you. So for the $14,000 a year that we're paying, and I don't get to talk about a lot of the bus they do. This was the conclusion of it, and we're okay to talk a little bit about it. They do other things. A lot of those lead into additional investigations. You can't talk too much about it, but this one was finished to some part. Whatever crimes they committed or in their past, now they'll go back and pick up those charges. They're not intending you to get away from it now, but made a couple arrests here and a couple more in Middletown that night. So just a briefing is money well spent to keep stuff out of here as best we can. So.
That's great. Wonderful. Any questions for the chief or any of the other chiefs or other staff reports? Okay. Consent agenda. We have taken a look at that. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Muerswall?
Yay.
And Mr. Wade?
Yeah. Anything else under staff updates?
Yeah, Jeff and I on Friday afternoon, we met with Environmental Engineering Services, EES, this department we selected to do the Red Lion sewer study. We set up a tentative plan on how to move forward, including the community engagement, as well as some of the down-in-the-weeds details, and just trying to tentatively lay out how we were going to proceed. So in the coming months, you'll see some communication coming from zoning administration on public engagement, even a public hearing, not public hearings, but public events to engage the community on defining the sewer area and doing the engineering that's needed to consider the next step.
Okay, good. Moving forward. Awesome. Okay, anything else? Anybody else have anything? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Muerswall?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah.